Hi, it's Tarek, and I'm going to do an upgrade of firmware on the Hasselblad 907X and CFV II 50C back, and also the 45P lens. Got an email from Hasselblad yesterday that said they had some firmware updates, and reading through the notes, they looked interesting to me. So I thought, well, I'm just going to do it, and then I thought, well, it'll be fun to make a video about it and share it with anybody else that's interested in the 907X system or even the H1D system, because the upgrade process is going to be fairly similar. So that's what's planned for this video. Now, I know firmware updates are not so exciting to many people, but they are important to do. And I don't know how to make it more exciting. Maybe I'll throw some epic music in towards the end where I have a few tests. So thanks for watching this. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you find it useful. Hope it helps you appreciate the system a bit more and just enjoy your photography. Keep having fun. Okay, thanks everybody. On to the next steps in this process of upgrading firmware. Okay, so this is the view before the code upgrade. So a few things to look at. We're going to look at the menu button. I'm going to press the menu on the back of the screen here. And then I'm going to touch the settings. Now I can do this by the joystick, but I'm just going to use the touch screen. Click on the About. And here we see the current firmware versions. So I'm going to use the joystick this time, just to highlight. So the 907X firmware is version v1.2.7. That's going to be upgraded. And the lens firmware for the 45P lens is v0.1.24. So that's it on those. So we're going to go back to, press the menu button, go back to this screen. Now I want to show the overlays, as the overlays are supposed to be upgraded. So this is the general overlay. I have the lens cap on right now, and that's deliberate because it'll make it easier for everybody to see the overlay. So the overlay you get to by pressing the rectangle button down here. So I'm going to press the rectangle button. Oh, I think I was in the menu. So press as if I was going to take a picture. Okay, so I'm in the overlay right now in the spirit level. We'll come back to this. So this is the normal overlay. Now I have the lens cap on, so you can just see what is in the menu, and that's the focus screen. Press the rectangle button again. This shows the first level overlay. This is very basic information. The ISO in the top right corner, EV values, f-stops, and if I change those, which I'm using the grip for, you'll see those increment, and I'm an aperture priority. Here's the time and number of exposures left, focus point. Press the overlay button again, and you get the rule of thirds grid. The 2 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines. So that's great. It shows really nicely with the lens cap on. And pressing it one more time gives the spirit levels. So spirit levels use the built-in accelerometer. That's the biggest word I think I've seen in the manual. So that's just to help you get balance and vertical and horizontal. I've used it quite a bit. It's been great to use. So one more thing to look at. So I'm just going to clear this to the regular screen. This one is where I think we will see the overlay be introduced in the code upgrade. So now we're going to go to the next part of what's going to be upgraded. So this is in the interval thing. The interval timer. So right now I'm on single shot. I'm going to press this to see my options. Single shot, continuous, self-timer, interval. This is the one we're interested in. Now I've been navigating using the joystick, but for the rest of these, to actually get into the menu, you actually have to use a touch screen. So right now there are 4 options. There's the time for number of seconds, and you can see just scroll and change to the number of seconds. We're going to leave it at that. Then I want to check the other thing, the number of frames. Default is 10, and we'll just leave it at the 10 frames. Initial delay is none. So instead of using the self timer, you can set an initial delay for a few seconds if you like. So I'm just going to leave it at none for right now. And when finished, either exit or stay in. So the default is exit, the other option is stay. So fairly simple. We should see a new option in here for metering after the code upgrade. So to go back, going back there, I'm going to leave it right here and select single shot, which is my default mode, and exit. So those are the views before the code upgrade. So before the code upgrade, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my memory cards. I have 2 of them, and I use them in a backup mode. So I've got these little card holders, so I'm going to set these aside. Take those out. I will use a different card for the code upgrade. That's just my preference. So I'm going to open the back, digital back, slide it out, press one card in, remove it, set it there, take the other card out, remove it, set it there. So close the digital back. So now I know that my images that are on these cards will be saved and safe from anything I do with the code upgrade. So these are 128 meg cards, and I prefer that. I'm going to use a 32, I said meg, gig. I'm going to use a 32 gig card for the code upgrade because that's the smallest card I could actually buy that would work with the system at the time I bought it. So that'll be the 3rd card. So just want to show that I'm taking these cards out, and hopefully you see me put the card in before I go further. So getting the firmware from the Hasselblad site is fairly simple to do. I didn't show that step because you can find it fairly easily, but of course you have to download it first. Continuing on the firmware upgrade, I downloaded the firmware yesterday from the Hasselblad site and put them into a folder. I like organizing them in a firmware folder, and here I have the most recent updates for the 2 firmwares we're going to be upgrading today. One is on the 907X CFV 250, that's the top one. And then for the 45p lens, that's this X lens V0, it's going to be .1.26. So I created another SD card just for firmware, as I want to keep that separate from the cards I am putting my images on. So put that in the card reader, and it should appear here. There it is, no name. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit now. I know the refresh is a little strange on the 2 systems, so move that back a little bit. Okay, so I want to, I'll just use my fingers here instead of a pencil. Okay, I want to copy the camera and digital back firmware and the lens one. The camera one is 225 megs, so that's a big file. The lens is 390 or so KB, so it's not a lot. So I'm going to copy these over to my drive here and copy. So it is copying the 2 items to the drive. Icon is spinning there. It shouldn't take it too long. And then we'll check on the drive to see that both of them are on the SD card. And the step after that, okay, it says it's copied, so we're going to check the name of the drive. And there they are. Okay, so that completes that step. The next thing is putting the SD card in the camera. Okay, going to put the SD card with the firmware on it in the camera. So here it is, and just going to take that SD card and stick it right into slot 1. So there it is. Close the door, press it down, slide it in, and that's it for that step. Okay, so now the SD card with the firmware is in the system, and you can see down here it's just one card in slot 1, slot 2 is empty. I'm going to press the menu button, and we're going to navigate to the settings tab. I'm using the joystick to go down, but you can use the touch screen. Going all the way to the bottom to review the current firmware in the About section. So I'm just going to press here, and here we see the CFV version v1.3.0, the 907X firmware version is v1.2.7, and the Lens Firmware version is v0.1.24. So I'm going to go back one screen. Now we're going up to the service screen, and I want to go to service and check for update. So I'm going to scroll to the check for update right there, and going to press this now. So it sees from the card that we've got the two files on there. The first one is for the CFV 250C v1.4.0, and let's press this again, wake this up, and the other one is for the lens, XLens v0.1.26. So we're going to do one at a time. These can take a little while to run, so what I've done is bring my iPad here in the background, and just going to pause for a moment, and then we will run the update. Okay, about to start the upgrade of this firmware. So this can take a while apparently. So this is the one we're going to select. So I'm going to select that. I pressed on it, and now I'm going to press the update manually. Okay, firmware update. Updates can take 15 minutes. You want to go? Yes. Update. Here we go. And starting the timer in the background. So I may pause the recording while this is going on and just watch the timer. And it's over 200 meg, so this could be quite a long upgrade. So I'll pause the recording now, and I'll be back. Warning, do not turn off. Okay, I'm turning the video camera off, leaving the Hasselblad on. Back soon. We're about 1 minute into the upgrade, and you can see the scroll bar is scrolling along. So I'll be back again. We're almost at the 2 minute mark, and let's see how far along it's gone. It's about halfway there, it seems. Approaching 3 minutes, and it looks like it is almost done. So back soon. Okay, about 3 minutes 20 seconds, and it's almost there, so we're just going to watch it now. Okay, right at 4 minutes, it blinked and the Hasselblad screen came up, then it went black, and now it says at 4 minutes, about 10 seconds, update is completed. Okay, let's press that OK button. Great. Oh, wonderful. It actually updated both firmwares. It updated the 907X, installed v1.2.7, and that's available. Okay, grip from v1.2.6 to that. Okay, so I'm just going to say update. Okay, I'm going to start this as a lap. This is lap 2 of the upgrade, and I'm going to pause the recording while it's Update succeeded. Okay, that was just a few seconds. Ready to be used. That's a good sign. Excellent. Okay, so now I'm going to stop the timer for a moment. Reset it. And now we're going to check the menu for the Lens Firmware. So here we are. And okay, Lens Firmware, check for update. All right. And now there's an option for, oh, look at this, the X lens that I had put on, but these other two down here, these were not on here before, but it appears to be packaged in with this larger one. These, the v1.4.0 sim seem to carry the 907X v1.2.8 sim and the control grip v1.2.7 sim. So that was packaged in, so that's nice. So now we're going to do the lens upgrade. So going to press that, firmware update, and I'm going to start the timer. And I'll be back. This should be pretty fast because it's only about 220K or so. We're nearly 1 minute into the Lens 45P upgrade to v0.1.26. So it's still running. I'll be back. We're almost 2 minutes in and I hear the lens starting to move up and down. So this is a Lens firmware update and I just went black. The H has come on. Update is completed. So right at the end, it looked like it did a little self-diagnostic check at the end of the firmware upgrade on the lens, and I heard it whir a little bit. This is a very silent lens, so I barely heard it. Okay. So now that that's done, we're going to go back into the menu, and we are going to read in the About section what those firmware's versions are. I'm going to stop that timer in the back. And that was that was about 2 minutes for the lens. Okay, about. Let's take a read here. Okay, CFV firmware is upgraded to v1.4.0. 907X firmware has been upgraded to v1.2.8. Grip firmware also upgraded to v1.2.7 and lens firmware to v0.1.26. And going back, and that is it. Okay, now that the firmware has been upgraded, I'm going to power down the camera and take that SD card out. That had the firmware on it. And put my other SD cards back in. So this is card 1. Placing that in slot 1. Oops. And card 2. Back in slot 2. Closing the lid, sliding it shut. Powering on the system. And it is showing the right number of images I have left, and the 1 and the 2 there showing that it is reading both cards. Now that the firmware upgrade is completed, I wanted to look at the overlays and see if they're any different. So I'm going to press the rectangle button here. Press it again. Okay, get out of the menu. Okay, I'm going to press the overlay button, and there's the overlay grid that was there before in the previous version. Press it one more time, and this is new right here. This right here is the distance scale. It says in meters, 0.35 to infinity. So that is nice. So if I try to focus on something, it should now give me that reading. This is too close, so I'll try and focus on something further away. And there we go. It gives the reading in meters. That can be changed to feet. So I'm going to put this lens cover back on because it'll allow us to see the other overlays more clearly with the contrast. So this is their accelerometer one. Tilt right and left to get the balance. This was there before. And up and down to get the balance there. Okay, and then checking for another overlay. So press the rectangle button again. Okay, lens grip. Press the overlay button. Accelerometers. It's staying on the spirit level. That does not seem to be clearing. I'm going to power it off. Setting down. Turning it back on. Okay, so this is the default overlay, which is just clear. You just see the focusing screen. Next, you see the minimal information. This is in the previous version of the firmware, which is the ISO on the top right, the aperture, shutter speed. Press the overlay button again. The rule of thirds grid comes up. Press the overlay button again. Now you have the distance grid, the distance marker. That can be changed from meters to feet, feet to meters. Press one more time, the accelerometer comes back. Press again and it clears. Okay, so that appears to work. Let's check the next thing in the menu. So that was going to be the interval setting. So looking for the interval here, I had on single, we go to interval, continuous, and now we have four options. We have a new option here, which is the metering. Before we just had the time, and now we have the metering. So clicking on metering, it can meter for each frame or just the first frame. So those are the new options. Before it was only the first frame. Now it can be for each frame. How this is valuable is if you're doing a time lapse and or anything else that requires some metering in between. Time lapse is the the simpler thing to think of, like a sunrise or sunset. I have to go back into the menu, so I waited too long. So interval. So now the times have exceeded to really long periods, I believe. I think that's one of the changes. And the number of frames, yes, goes up to 1,000 and no limit. So very, very long. I'm setting it back to the defaults of 10. I have not actually used this so far. Initial delay, that was there before. None. The number of seconds that you may want. This is helpful. 2 seconds, 10 seconds, 60 seconds. Okay, we're going to do the none. And when finished, exit or stay. So those are the new things that are in with the interval option to meter at each frame. Okay, so this is what I've tried to do. I've set up a picture here, and I'm going to try to cycle through the overlay menu. So I'm going to press the rectangle button once, and this is the center spot. I've set it to spot metering, and that's for a reason. Now it's got the grid, the rule of thirds grid, and now it has the distance markings, and now the accelerometer. Now this is pretty close to being level, so just try to adjust it just a little bit, and I threw it all off. So try to adjust it, although it's not that important for this particular picture. Okay, that's pretty close. And I'm on manual focus. So I've pre-focused on manual focus at this distance. And now I'm going to step in there and just let it run as I run the interval settings. Looks like it's a nice sunset today, and I know I'm backlit right now. But I just finished the test. I previewed the pictures on the back of the screen. I think the test is going to work out. We'll take a look at it when I get back to the studio at home. And just want to say that because this is a sunset, this would be an ideal use of the interval setting. And it's possible at much longer intervals now. You could do several minutes, several seconds, going into the minutes, timing a certain number of shots, and setting the metering to occur between each frame. So that would be ideal. I think that's more interesting from video time lapses personally than in still pictures, but that's how this could be used. So I just want to show that this would kind of be a setting to use that feature with, and I think this is a nice upgrade to the interval thing. It's not something I normally would have thought to use myself or would use, but now that I've tried it out and tested it, I'll keep it in mind. I've got a little experience with it now. So that's it. I'll be heading home. See you there. So I'm back from testing the interval metering capability, metering between each frame in the interval setting. And by now you probably see from looking at the pictures what happened and why I used the gray cards. So I spot metered off of where I had tried to place the gray card, black card, and white card, and I manual focused on there, and then I held the cards, and as you could probably see from the pictures, the white card, when it was spot metered off of that, that's 100% of the spot metering going off of the card, the image was too dark. And then when I had the black card, it was a lot better, and then when I had the gray card, the metering was pretty much correct. And that was the whole firmware upgrade, doing the metering between each frame. And I took 5 pictures, and then the last one I had kind of as a freebie. So I hope you could see that. It was fun to do it because it's not normally something I would think of using. It's not in my shooting to use the interval thing, but now that I went through it and I tried it out, I might imagine using it sometime. So hope that made sense now. Hi, it's Tarek, and today I'm going to do a firmware upgrade on my Hasselblad 907X and 52. I can't get the name of that thing right.